everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. On this particular episode, we are doing our annual sports edition. Obviously, later on in today's podcast, we will be hearing from Central Penn Knights head coach for baseball, Robert Stern, talking a little bit more of a baseball preview. But today, we are here with Athletic Director Kasey Hicks to talk a bit more about the finality of the basketball season on both the men's and women's side. So, Kasey, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure as always.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad I didn't scare you off or you don't enjoy coming, because obviously I try my very best to make all my guests feel welcome. Also being joined by Nightly News reporter Molly Peters. Molly, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Yeah, it's actually my first time on here, so...
Well, technically, yes, in terms of a full episode, but you have been on. We just did a piece with the Nightly News for our Com 270 class where you read an article that you had done. So this is certainly not your first foray into the podcast studio, but we appreciate you being here. And you're going to chime in a little bit more about some of the student involvement that we saw this year in terms of our basketball teams. Well, Kasey, which side of the coin do you want to start on here, the men or women?
Let's go with the men.
Okay, so as we record, the men have one more game left on the season. By the time this is released, that game will have concluded. The men stand currently at 5-13, probably not the record that they would have hoped for. Let's start on, and I think this will probably be a good kind of framework for both sides. Let's start on the positive side. I'm going to kind of give some of my initial thoughts of the positives, especially since I was able to do several of these games and see them and really be engrossed in it. Positive side, they could score. They were impressive. They were fast. They had that center. They had people at different positions. They got some infusion of talent at the break between the two terms in terms of Allen and Span coming in to assist. They had some depth. They have some young people coming in getting some time that are going to continue to progress. They stayed healthy short of, unfortunately, Aaron Harrison's injury in the last game. So those are definitely some positives. What are some other positives that you see?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think the key there is, we just had senior night last weekend, and we only have one senior. So we have a whole roster of students that we're hoping to keep together and bring back next year. Like you said, offensively, we could score the ball. We have a whole roster of kids that can score the ball. We're scoring about, probably on average, 80 points a game, which is a lot.
81.3.
There you go, 81.3 points a game. So if we can keep that offensive intensity up, we keep this team together. They're young. They have to get used to the new program. It's our first-year coach with Coach Gary Martin in here. So,
well, let's talk about Coach Martin. Now, I was fortunate enough to produce. He was in on the Bridge podcast with Dr. Fedrizi Williams, and it was so interesting to get to talk to him. Now, what do you think were some of your impressions of Coach Martin and his style, and maybe how that differed from Coach Archer?
Truly, if you walk into the gym, you can tell the difference. The intensity from the sideline. Coach Martin is more of a quiet leader, a mentor, take him to the side, talk to him one-on-one, explain things. He's not so much of the in-your-face, scream across the gym type coach, which one is never better than another. It's just, depending on your student athletes, how they respond best. So Coach Martin definitely came in here with a little bit more of a quiet mentorship type approach with our team. And I think we have some growing pains to get through. Some of our students are used to the more in-your-face type thing.
Well, there's definitely a big difference just from visuals in terms of Coach Archer. Yeah. I mean, I love the guy. He was always, a great guy, and we do miss him as part of the program, but there's definitely a difference in coaching strategy and coaching style between the two. And I did appreciate when he was in and he talked about that mentorship piece and why, because Dr. Fedrizi asked him about why he does this, and that was really what it came to be, because he had people who did the same for them, and now he's paying it forward, with his players, and I think that's really unique.
Yeah, I think that's what makes some of the best coaches, when you have that drive, because you know where you came from and how you got there, to be able to give that back is special.
Something I'm sure you're aware of, 6 players averaged in double digits this year.
Mm-hmm.
That just goes to speak to the amount of depth that the team had. And in fact, 7 players actually started games this year.
Right, yep.
In addition, you've got 7 players that average double-digit minutes per game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was just, I think one of the things that I look back to on the season for the men was the depth. They never had to really lean on one particular person, though I'm pretty sure in the last game of the season, Tyler Hunter played the entire game, which more power to him, but I think I made that comment during the broadcast. But I absolutely love the depth that this team had, and of course, we're going to miss my buddy Randy. It was so nice to see him and his family and get to meet them at senior day.
And he had a great senior night game, too. 18
Player of the game.
points, player of the game for sure. He balled out.
Him and Tyler were co-players of the game in that day.
Nice.
But I think that even though I'm sure every single person on that team would admit that they're probably not happy with the outcome of the season, the one thing that you have to remember is outside of Rodney Ross, Randy DuPont coming back, everybody else was in their first year. This was the first time that these gentlemen had the opportunity really to play together as a team. And I think that if you give them that offseason, if you give them to next season, you're really going to see some tremendous growth. Another thing I wanted to point out, so many close games. I mean, obviously they won several really good games, but I'm just looking at the results, there were at least another 5 to 7 games that they were within 10 points that were feasible for them to pull off. So I think that with a little bit more gelling as a team, I think that they have a really good opportunity not only to get above 500, but to make the tournament, to make a run in the tournament if they can keep this group together.
Yeah, and some of the feedback I've gotten from the guys towards the end of the season is, the last 2-3 weeks, they're like, Kasey, we're really starting to get to know each other now. It's too late, but it might be late for this season. But like you said, the off season is a whole other time for them to get to know each other, gel, get better, work on their craft. And if we can get those guys back with them being so young, we definitely have a special team in the future.
And 100%, I believe next year, Kasey, we're going to do everything we can to broadcast every home game. Unfortunately, some of the issues, because I'm such a major cog in this, I had class and I missed a few of the games. And our goal next year is to broadcast every men's and women's home game next year, because I'll tell you what, the feedback that we have gotten on these live streams is incredible since we've moved to Twitch. I'm saying on an average, we're averaging anywhere from between 300 and 400 views per game, which is probably anywhere from 4 to 5 times more than we experienced on any other platform. And I, of course, I expect that to continue with baseball as well.
Definitely, yeah. No, that would be great. I know we would love that, and I know the students are always asking for the links. I'm looking forward to the broadcast for their families and friends that can't make it, so I know that's something that'll definitely be welcomed with open arms.
And one final piece on that, I was so happy to get to have both Brian Christiana and Tyler Coleman, two of our illustrious alumni from the Nightly News, call games with me this year. It was just so wonderful. I don't get to see them all that much since they've graduated, and it was just like old times, just like we didn't miss a beat. So I think that was really cool.
It is nice to see them across the gym too. It's good to be able to bring back some of our alumni, and I know those guys are great at it and they enjoy it and they make it fun. So I'm happy to see them back.
I will say that the hardest thing about doing this is to actually do it. And here's what I mean when I say that. As a commentator for both basketball and baseball, you do have to be critical. Unfortunately, it forces me to be critical of folks who I know on a personal level. I mean, I've had these students in class. I've developed a couple of the guys are in the communications program.
Right.
So on one hand, I kind of want to sugarcoat things because I don't want people to think I'm being overly critical of them. But on the other hand, it's part of the job to be critical of the game that you're watching. So I'm always having to kind of walk that fine line, and I'm always just waiting for somebody to come out and be like, "Hey, why are you critiquing me on taking a 3 when I probably should have went to the basket?" And hey, I'd like to see you get out there, buddy, kind of thing. But I haven't gotten that, and I think all guys kind of they understand.
Yeah, no, all the feedback I get, the guys appreciate you, they respect you. You're kind of like a coach from afar. They get to listen to the broadcast and see your perspective as well. So it ends up working out okay.
I appreciate that. Well, Molly, I want to bring you in here. One of the things that I can honestly say in my experience of doing the 7 broadcasts this year was the fan support this year was unlike. This is, I believe, the 3rd season that we have called basketball, and the fan support this year, while on the surface, the 8:30 games up front maybe didn't look as attractive as we might have hoped.
Yes.
I think they actually helped bring in more people into the crowd. So, Molly, I want to get a little bit more on your perspective from how much the student involvement really increased this year, maybe because of some of those later games, but really because of the ease of access for students to get to the games.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I noticed on the Central Penn app and like within the discussions, even things I hear students talking about, if I pass someone, everybody wants to be hyped up for the games, and everybody, we had a whiteout, we had blackout, and for as small of a college that we do have, being able to have a student section like that and rally together and support our teams, I think is something that's really big. Even the smaller student sections, the later games, stuff like that, I think we still had a lot of support, and that's something that's really important, is to show support for these teams that
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've seen some broadcasts of some, let's just say, bigger schools, and our student section and our number of attendees rivals some of these much, much, much larger schools, and I think that that's a testament to how our students have really gotten behind these teams. What were your thoughts in terms of student engagement? I mean, you're here on campus, you're in the underground, you're seeing and talking to these students. What does it mean to the men and women to see that amount of following in the stands and concern about how they're doing?
Yeah, I mean, to put it simply, it's everything. I remember, just to go back real quick, I started coaching here in 2015. My very first game, I walked into the gym and there was literally 6 people in the stands. So to me and to some of the players that have worked really hard to commit to these programs, to see that growth going from about 6 people this season alone between men's and women's basketball, we've averaged anywhere between 80 to 90 people
Absolutely.
in the crowd. And again, it's everything. And I think it's kind of a testament to, here at Central Penn, we say we build a family. And I think seeing the student section grow, seeing everybody come in their black and white, or with their numbers on, their jerseys on, their Central Penn gear on, it shows that we really are building a family here, and we really do support each other. We want to be there for each other. I know it means everything to me to see that growth. I know it's been a lot of hard work, and we have a lot of people working with just advertising. The app helps, like Molly mentioned. We've been trying to keep the website updated, putting out more stuff on social media, and I think all those things coming together, really getting behind our student athletes and showing the appreciation for the hard work, the sweat, the dedication that they really put in. When people take the time to understand what these student athletes do on top of already having those accelerated classes on campus, I mean, what some of these student athletes are able to do is special. So to have that backing and to see that, I know it means the world to me. So I can only imagine how much it means to the students, and I know it fuels them. You can tell the games where we've had so many close games, as you have mentioned, when we have that student section and that backing behind us and the fans, that helps them, overcome some of those closer games, or really get that momentum to finish those games strong. Even if we end up on the losing side, to finish for the fans, that's something special that they've been able to do for our team. So it is very much appreciated.
Last week on February 12th is the games that I'm referring to when we did our final doubleheader of our broadcasts. I remember it was like middle of the 3rd quarter, maybe close to the 4th quarter, and the game was really close for the ladies, and Bub hit a 3, and I do not remember a pop like that at East Penn ever since I've been broadcasting games, and I've probably done 25, 30 games. And that was just, it gave me goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
I did too.
And of course, that continued on into the men's games. There were a couple of huge shots that Tyler Hunter hit. I remember when he hit the 3 from way outside. First of all, I said, no, don't shoot. Go to the basket. And then, of course, he hit it. And, the pop there, those are things I will never forget. And I know that it helps to energize the guys, and they gave it their all. Berkeley was such a tough team, and they gave it their all the way to the end, and I give them so much credit. And then, of course, as the old phrase, insult to injury, about a minute left in a game, Aaron Harrison goes down, and fortunately he's doing okay. It wasn't anything overly serious, but yeah, I mean, he's going to miss the last game of the season, and we'll look forward to having him back next year. But Molly, just as we wrap up this thing about from the student's perspective, so you talked about all of the pieces of it, but let's talk about like what it means to you and others to be able to support these people who frankly and have been in classes with. Do you ever see them giving you a thanks for being there or telling you about how much it means to you for being there?
Yeah, so that's the thing. My high school was relatively small. It was probably about, it was a little bit bigger than the college, so that just says something about how small our college is. But I know almost every single member of the basketball team personally, and something that, like, if we're hanging out, something that they say is like how much they appreciate having a student section, how much excitement they feel from being able to look into the stands and see their friends and see their classmates supporting them. And that's one thing that even in high school we didn't have a student section like that. Coming to college and having something like that you can support people, and you come together as a team within the student section, even not even and you're all able to see these people that you see every day. And I think that's something that's really important, is being able to support each other. And
so I want to take some time to talk about the Lady Knights. So the Lady Knights, again, they have 2 more contests, and by the time that this is released, they will have 1 final contest. So I first of all just want to put out a reminder that the senior night for the ladies will take place on Friday, February 25th at East Penn High School at 7 o'clock against Christendom, and that will be celebrating some of our senior ladies. So please make sure you put that on your calendar for the senior night for the ladies. But as it currently stands, the ladies are 6-7. If they would win their last 2 games, they would be above 500 and give themselves a realistic chance to make the USCAA tournament. So let's talk a little bit about the ladies' season and how that's gone, and some of the takeaways that you have.
Yeah, so I'm nothing but impressed with the women's team coming in. We have some of our star players back from last year, obviously, in Tania Jackson and Lee Borelli and Jeray Patterson come in the second half of the season. So with under their leadership, the women have been doing really well. Under
4 of 5.
Right. Yeah. And this is their true first year playing under Coach Miller. She started in 2020 when we obviously went through the cancellation of the season from COVID. So again, another situation where we're getting used to a new coach. We're coming in with a all new game plan, new program. But the women have responded, and they've competed in games. Almost every game has been close. Even the games they've lost, they've been in it. But T is the point guard. She's a special leader out there on the floor. I don't have enough positive things to say about her. Adding Jeray and Lee and even Dejanay Brannon, we had 3 additions in the second half of the season, and since the break, they have come back with a vengeance and have been on a winning game streak here, and they're going to continue to light it up on the floor. They just have 1 to 5 positions. They work well. They share the ball. They have the outside shooters. They have the leader in the point guard. They have a strong post presence now. So they have all the pieces they need if they can finish out this season strong. And if we get that at-large chance with that bid to the postseason play, they have a complete team that might be able to compete for sure in the postseason.
Absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, Kasey, there was a few things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, there have been several players that have received some USCAA recognition as well as some All-American nominations. I wondered if you wanted to give some of those individuals a shout out.
For sure. So for starters, we have a 2-time USCAA Player of the Week honor with Tania Jackson. She was honored as Player of the Week this year, which is a national honor. I don't always think the college realizes how big of an honor that is. I mean, I know USCAA is for small college athletics, but this is colleges across the nation.
Absolutely.
So all of those schools, she was nominated as Player of the Week for her performance twice. So really proud of her. I think that's a great accomplishment. I know Tyler Hunter was in the running for Player of the Week as well. And then All-Americans, we actually have quite a number of Central Penn students nominated. We don't have the final conclusion yet for what those lists look like, but even a nomination is an honor.
And absolutely, and those do get announced at the tournament in March.
Right,
so we
right.
will certainly follow up with that, and we will discuss that with on the Nightly News as well.
Yeah, but I mean, we have so for Player of the Year, which is a huge honor. Last one we had, throwback to Noah Baylor, was our last Player of the Year honor under USCIA. Tania Jackson's name is obviously in the running for Player of the Year, as is Tyler Hunter.
Wow.
So we actually have 2 men and women representative for Player of the Year, which is, again, a huge thing. And then All-Americans, obviously, Tania Jackson in the past 2 years has been honorable mention All-American. I don't think that's good enough for her anymore. We're looking at least first team, second team, All-American. And then some of the other mentions, even as freshmen, we have Sydney Bubb and Sydney Green that have been mentioned as nominees for All-Americans this year.
That's fantastic.
So 3 ladies looking for nominations. And then on the men's side, as I said, we had Tyler Hunter for Player of the Year. And then All-American nominees have been obviously Rodney Ross. And the men have been tough because, like you've said, we have so many guys that have scored and have produced numbers. But Rodney Ross is a nomination, Nate Jean Phillip, and...
who, by the way, is such an amazing personality. And
great kid.
The way that
Yeah.
he brings the team together, it's really incredible. And I got to know Nate, and I had Nate and Randy in a class last term, and it was really cool to have them.
Nate is electric. His personality, and again, leader of the men's team. So he definitely has that personality that people look to, and I think he'll continue with that as he moves forward. But yeah, Rodney, and the last one is Randy. Thank you for bringing him
Of
up.
course.
Randy DuPont. So lots of recognition for Central Penn student athletes, and I think that's special. I think it shows the strength of the teams we put out there, and I'm really happy for that recognition for our students.
Well, before we get out of here, I just want to make one comment. We're not excluding baseball here. We just happen to have Coach Stern coming up next, so we're going to talk all about baseball. But Kasey, as we kind of put a bow on the basketball season, number one, we wish all of our student athletes who are up for these awards the best of luck. We hope that in the final games for both the men and women, they can come out victorious. And fingers crossed that the ladies can make it into the tournament because, as you mentioned, they've definitely got the team right now. 1-4 of 5, and the only game they lost by 1 point in a heartbreaker against Christendom. So,
we get them again on senior night, so the women are looking to make that
Revenge.
one right. That's right.
Well, Kasey, thank you so much for your time today and coming in and talking a bit more about the athletics and the fall sports season. Of course, we'll have you back again, maybe toward the conclusion of the baseball season, talk a little bit more about that. But it's always a pleasure to have you on and talk about night sports.
Definitely. Any chance I have to brag about our students, I will be here, Paul. So I appreciate you giving me the platform.
You got it. And Molly, thank you so much for chiming in about what impact the students have on the basketball season and your unique perspective on not only the relationships that you forged with the basketball players, but also what it feels for you to be at some of these games.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me on here.
Always a pleasure, and I'm sure we'll have you back again soon.
Definitely. And sorry, Paul, if I can interrupt Molly.
Sure.
If we can keep that student section up, obviously moving into baseball, let's see you take the leadership on that and see if we can continue with that awesome support, because I know baseball would love it as well.
For sure. I'm planning on being at as many games as I can because I'm going to be working here with Professor Miller and hopefully making some stuff happen for that. So
Awesome. I'll see you guys in the stands then.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this part of the Nightly News podcast. Again, as I mentioned, Coach Stern will be coming up for a baseball preview. But for this segment, I'd like to thank Athletic Director Kasey Hicks and Nightly News reporter Molly Peters. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News podcast. Stay tuned for Coach Stern coming up next.
Hi, this is Brian Christiana. Thank you for listening to the Nightly News Podcast, a part of the Nightly News Media Club here at Central Penn College.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so glad and happy and excited to be here with one of my most favorite people on the face of the planet, head coach for the Central Penn Knights baseball team, Robert Stern. Coach Stern, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Paul, how you doing today? Thanks for having me again.
It is my absolute pleasure to do it and have you here today. So what we're going to be talking about is the upcoming Central Penn Knights men's baseball season, and we are so happy to get that kicked off on March the 2nd at In the Net Sports Complex in Palmyra. Of course, all games are free to attend. We also will be broadcasting those through the Central Penn Twitch app. If you go to twitch.tv twitch.tv/Central Penn. All of the home games will be broadcast live, and we have a special teaser for an upcoming press conference to announce something extra special for this season. So that's really all the things we're going to be talking about. Who we bringing back, who are some new faces to keep an eye out for, and just really promoting these broadcasts. Also being joined here by Nightly News reporters Dalton Kohler, Kevon Davis, also members of the baseball team, can give us some additional insight on how the season's going thus far and what the thoughts are for the Knights this year. So, gentlemen, welcome. Dalton, thank you for coming back to the show.
No problem.
And Kevon, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Well, one of the things that we want to start off with is sort of how things have been going for the Knights. You did have some fall practices. You have a lot of new faces, 27 players. Is this the largest roster that you're going to be working with since your time here at Central Penn?
Yes, sir. My 5th year. This is the largest roster I'm going to have my 5th year.
Now, having a large roster is fantastic in regard to you can sort of weather injuries, maybe not obviously. So the gentlemen play doubleheaders. There's almost never an occasion where you're not playing two, so that gives you an opportunity to have plenty of people ready to go out of the bullpen, different positional players to do switches and things like that. On the other hand, though, do you ever find, or do you think you're going to find a situation where the players are going to be thirsty for more playing time?
I don't think so. Guys know that we're going to put the best team out on the field as possible every time we go out.
So, and the big thing is you are returning several players this year. So let's start off at the top. Let's focus on some of the returning players that Knights fans might be aware of.
Okay, I'm looking for Ryan Stevens, Zach Boyer, Zach Hafner, Hunter Finke, Adam Hoover, Nick Fulton, and Kobe Edwards and Dom Humes. Those are the key players that are coming back from the last year.
And, of course, you are losing one of the most prolific sluggers in the history of the Central Penn Knights and Chris Rosario. I hope Chris is doing well. Have you talked to him lately?
Yeah, he's doing fine.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. Chris was always a great guy and certainly along for the ride for a lot of the broadcasts, and we've seen him hit some absolute mammoth shots. So obviously you've got some good pitching there. I know that Zach Hafner, I know that Ryan Stevens, and Zach Boyer all pitched last year. Do you anticipate them being your lead pitchers coming into the season?
They will pitch, but right now I think my lead pitcher is going to be one of my freshman guys, one of my newcomers, and that's Dalton Collier. He showed very promising over the fall and winter workouts. And once I'd seen him last year in the showcase, I jumped on him right away. So he's going to be a promising young ball player for years to come here.
Well, let's talk about that, Dalton. So, Dalton, I have gotten to know these two gentlemen. I've had them in class, but unfortunately, I've never gotten to see them on the field. So, tell us a little bit, Dalton, about your background in baseball, how you got into it, and how you kind of emerged as this now ace of our staff in your first year before you've even thrown a single inning.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was very surprised when Stern told me the other day that I was ace of the team. But basically, I started when I was 8 years old. I didn't even play t-ball. I started playing at coach pitch, and one day I was just watching a Little League World Series. I was like, wow, that'd be pretty cool if I'd be able to, pitch on TV and just play on TV. That'd be really cool. So then I started getting into it, started playing travel ball, and then I played for Elite Baseball, the showcase team, where Coach Stern met me at a showcase. We talked, brought me out for a visit, and I was immediately in love with Central Penn and what they had to offer. Came out for a couple of those fall scrimmages 2 falls ago, and Stern was impressed. I was impressed with the team, and I guess it's just me just working hard, trying to improve my craft, and I guess it's earned me the ace spot.
I mean, that's just unbelievable to come in as a freshman, and even with some really heavy hitters, returning sophomores and juniors coming back to the team, to be able to lead that rotation is something special.
Well, one thing I do is I give my freshmen opportunity, and you know that from the past when Hayden Fox was a freshman here, and I rode him out on opening day 2 years ago in 2020 when we started off 7-1.
I know it very well.
He opened up opening day and had 13 strikeouts on his debut.
It was, I'll tell you what, I could sit here and talk with you about those 8 games. It's like they're burned into my memory because, of course, I did the Final Out documentary about that team, and I remember every single one of those games. And, one of the biggest regrets and I hate to say that word. It's probably, maybe regret isn't the right word, but one of the biggest things that I always remember is I did not get to call the last game of that season because I had class, and obviously we did broadcast that game, but I couldn't be there that day. And I will never forget the last game I saw you was when you walked off at 5-1, and you were walking to your car after the game, and you said, "Hey, best start in college history," and of course, adding 2 more victories. It was really amazing. And I'm so glad that, if nothing else, even after that lost season, I was able to sort of immortalize that experience for the guys. And, I got to, of course, I still talk to Christian Fulp, and I still talk to Connor through social media on occasion. So, but yeah, that was just such an amazing run, and unfortunately ended too soon. But
it's not over yet.
And that's why I love your enthusiasm about this. So one of the things too, so we got to talk a little bit to Dalton about his background with baseball. So Kevon, you're also here. You're obviously one of our nightly news reporters, but you're also one of the key additions to the team. So tell us a little bit about how you got involved with baseball and why it's such a passion for you.
So I started off with T-ball, and my mom started me with this place called Churchville Curve. And ever since then, I fell in love with the game. And at my old college, I had a little fallout with them. And I texted Stern. I was like, yo, I'm all in for the season. And he wanted me to show him video. He liked what he see. I came here. And ever since, I've loved the family. And my teammates are great. We push each other every day to be better. And we compete. So it's been a great time being here.
Well, we will connect with you at the end of the season and make sure that that's still your impression. But of course, things happen as the season goes by. But one more quick note. Kevon is a rabid Atlanta Braves fan, and I actually got to have him in class for the first couple of weeks while Atlanta was going through the postseason. What is your impressions about the situation of Major League Baseball right now in the lockout? Do you believe that they're going to get all of this resolved in time to have a full season?
I think it will get resolved at one point. I think the biggest problem right now is with the pitchers and the DHs, because a lot of them think that the pitchers are giving them a less likely situation to win at the end of the games instead of having a DH. But I feel like once they get that figured out, they'll be ready to go again.
To me personally, I know that baseball nostalgists, don't like the designated hitter. But at this point, I don't understand. It's better for the game. People like offense. 99% of pitchers, unfortunately, can't hit at the major league level. Of course, you have, for every Madison Bumgarner that you have who can hit, you've got 50 guys who can't hit over 100. And so to me, I just don't understand why that hasn't been done a long time ago. And I agree with you, and I do think that's going to be one of the central issues here. But in the end, frankly, any work stoppage in sports is not good. In fact, Coach Stern, I'm sure you remember this, and I was a kid. I was 13 years old in the strike of 94. I swore the game off. And it took Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa to bring me back. And yes, that did happen. But how much more fans can the game afford to lose? The numbers, the playoff numbers, ratings, and all that are fine. But attendance numbers, people are thinking the game's too slow. You're not getting a lot of young people becoming fans. I really think this work stoppage is horrific for the game of baseball in general, not even just Major League Baseball. I'm talking about even at your level and below, trying to get people involved. What do you think about that?
Well, the game has slowed down in America a lot. We're not seeing the youth as we used to see it back when I was growing up playing baseball. So basically, the game has slowed down in the United States tremendously. So that's where it starts. It starts with our young kids. And if our young kids aren't playing, how can we keep the game going?
Absolutely. Well put. Well, I want to also, so let's take a look at, obviously we talked about Kevon and Dalton, but let's talk about some of the other young players in their first year that you're really looking forward to.
Well, I got a young kid named Owen Zell who's going to be a tremendous second baseman, along with your friend D. Montero. Those are 2 young kids that are showing a lot of promise in practices a lot. Our older guys are taking them younger kids underneath their wing like we did 2 years ago. Zach Boyer, Hafner, Stevie Armstrong, who's a newcomer here, who's actually a transfer from Prince George County out of Maryland. He's going to be like a sergeant on the field. When you see him behind the dish, you'll be surprised. Other than that, like I said, we got a whole group of kids. We got 16 new faces that came in this year. So we're just going to try to all put it together and as one instead of being individualized. We're just trying to be one big team.
I guess my question is, and speaking from somebody who's never been a head coach outside of Little League, how do you deal with, and I don't want to say that any of these kids are divas or anything like that, but how do you deal with trying to make sure that you get people playing time so that keep them engaged and keep, digging down and trying to give their all each and every time? I mean, don't give away your craft secrets, but how do you deal with that, especially with such a large roster?
You got to get engaged in practice, number one. You win your spot in practice. And what happens is if I explain to guys, just because, say, for instance, that Zach Boyer is my starting shortstop and he goes 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, and somebody steps up and I play them the next day and then they're 4 for 5 or whatever, then Zach knows that he has to take a back seat now. That's just an example. So whoever rises to the occasion plays. That's just the bottom line.
So this year on the schedule, as it currently stands, of course, as we know in college baseball, the schedule is fluid. You have to, obviously, well, hopefully not at this point. The weather's looking pretty good. Fields are, for the most part, barren of snow. But right now you have 36 games in all but under 2 months. You're talking about 60 days. You're talking 36 ball games. How do you deal? And obviously, we know baseball is the grind, but how do you deal with that? So many games in such a short period of time, but also not even just on the field. Obviously, all these students are student athletes as well. So how do you walk that balance of making sure that they're giving their all on the field, but also in the classroom?
Well, it all started off season by us going to study hall during the off season with getting 100% at study hall and kids being eligible. And with that said, Paul, we have 12 kids on the dean's list the last term. So that speaks volumes for our program and what we've been doing here, number one, with education-wise. And kids know that it's education first and baseball second.
And one of the things that, so I'm actually on the athletic advisory committee, and one of the things that we had talked about, and I'm sure that, you're aware of this too, was that, and it certainly wasn't the baseball team. They weren't the ones that brought this up, but a lot of our students weren't identifying that they were an athlete, and so now we're really trying to be proactive, to have the students go up to the professors, give them a schedule, say, hey, these are the classes that I'm going to miss because I'm going to be at a game. I want to be proactive about it, and that's one of the things that we really hope that on our end, because then that's going to make it easier on the player, because we are able to proactively work with them and share with them assignments or let them work ahead if they have the opportunity. So I hope that that's something that's benefiting not only the professors, but also benefiting the students, and in conjunction with that, the team as well.
I think it does, because I think the kids have already reached out to the professors and gave the schedules up already.
And that's exactly what we were hoping for, and we're so glad that worked. I mean, it's something so simple. Make up a schedule, hand it to your professor, say, hey, these are the dates that I'm going to be on, or just even identifying, hey, you can go to the website, always see the updated schedule. So, well, I do want to quickly tease something that is happening. Huge news for the Central Penn Knights baseball team. Unfortunately, we can't quite let the cat out of the bag just yet, but I wanted to look ahead to the large press conference that's going to be happening on Wednesday, February 23rd at 2 o'clock. I encourage you to be a part of that press conference. We are going to be covering it as part of the nightly news. So I just wanted to put that out there to everybody. That, again, Wednesday, February 23rd at 2 o'clock, very, very important news. That all being said, I want to just point out a couple of dates. Opening day will take place on Wednesday, March 2nd at In the Net in Palmyra. That's going to be a 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock doubleheader against Penn State Mont Alto, followed up by that Saturday, March 5th, a 1 and 3 o'clock versus Penn State Fayette. Before you go on the road for a couple of contests, you'll be back on March 15th, March 23rd, March 31st, April 15th, and April 22nd are your home contests this year. Now, let me ask, What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the guys when there are a ton of Central Penn, folks, fans, parents, students, professors, staff members at the games?
Oh, we're going to play good baseball for them.
Well, I mean, but how does that make the team feel when when you're playing to hundreds of people as opposed to just a few passersby?
Well, I don't think it should bother them playing wise. I just think they get more excited for it and everything. You should see our excitement over at the complex. The kids are ready to play baseball. We've been working out since January 10th, and we're just eager to go.
Now, I also heard that you do some late night practices.
They're all late nights.
Now, obviously, I know that there's probably scheduling and logistical issues are part of that. Do you ever find that it's a little bit more difficult to get people going that late at night, or do you find that the students are actually probably a little bit more ready later in the evening?
It's a lot better. We get more done. We have a new facility that we're working out at with the Keystone Nationals, where there's like 2 pitching tunnels, 7 batting cages, and a whole infield that we use. So, we make the best of it. Guys come in, they get hype. Once in a while we play music and get it going and everything. And tonight's going to be a tremendous practice when we get there tonight. Got something special going on.
Okay. Well, hey, Dalton, I wanted to come back to you with some of those questions. So obviously, in your time, you've obviously played some of these showcases, obviously a lot of fans. Let's just put it this way. When you walk out on that field for the first time and you see, friends, family, parents, faculty, staff, other students, how do you think that that's going to feel to you here at Central Penn?
It's just going to make me more amped and ready to go because I love looking out in the crowd and seeing all those people that are there to support me. And it's like, well, not only am I putting the show on for my team and trying to do as much as I can for us to help us win, but I also want to put on a show for them too. And I'm all about, the flashiness and the energy, and I'm all about it. So if it happens, I'm ready to showcase that.
Now, comment on the late night practices.
I personally think it's actually better because I feel like I get all my classes done, I get all my schoolwork out of the way, and now I'm just waiting for baseball practice to happen. As soon as I'm going, then I'm ready to go.
Awesome.
I'm all wired throughout the day, and as soon as I get there, it's off and rolling.
Now, let me ask you, what is the largest crowd you've ever played before?
That's actually a good question. I'm not quite sure.
You can take a guess.
If I were to take a guess, it'd probably be senior year when we had our district playoff game last year. There was a very large amount of people, and usually for us, we would just be free admission, but they were actually charging $5 per person. So I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people here.
So what was the feeling like when you stood out there with all those people?
I was just sitting out there, and in my core, I'm like, well, I want to treat it like any other game, but I'm like, it's not any other game. It's more. This is like, if you're giving 100% before, you're giving 110% effort now. And it's like, it actually makes me play up. I like the pressure. I like the atmosphere and everything. So I get more energized and more amped for it.
Awesome. Well, Kevon, tell me a little bit more. What is it going to mean to you when you get out on that field and you see so many of your peers and your colleagues and people who you look up to here at the college being there supporting you?
It's going to make me very excited. My dad always told me, don't play for us, don't do anything, just do it for the name on the jersey and the last name that's on your back. And it's going to make me play real hard. I just want to make my parents proud and where I came from, because not a lot of ball players come from where we come from. So my first priority is just to play hard and make my city proud.
And what is the largest crowd you can ever recall playing before?
It was our semi-regional baseball game in high school, and we had over 75 people there at Ripken Stadium. So, like, the whole behind the plate and, like, first base and third base side were filled up.
I can promise you this year we will beat that. And hopefully that it doesn't get you too amped up. If anything else, just like you said earlier, just do what you're there to do. And obviously you want to try to impress people, but at the same time, you're going to impress us by just being yourself. So, Coach, it's always our pleasure to have you here. And one of the things that I just want you to know, I want you all to know this, I take broadcasting these games very seriously, and it is my absolute pleasure and honor to be there for you. We will be there all except one game. The only game that we're going to miss is a game that I'm actually in class, so I cannot miss that, but I will be at every other game. I will be there with Brian Cristiano on opening day. I will be doing some of the games by myself, and also Professor Tom Davis is also going to join us for some of the contests. I just want you to know how much we absolutely love this. These two gentlemen already got to work on some of the athletics events. We did 7 basketball games this year, and we're looking forward, like I said, to doing double digits on baseball this year. And certainly as the season progresses, there's certainly an opportunity for us to potentially do some away games as well. So I just want you to know, in terms of the nightly news, how important this is, not only to myself, but other people who are involved with these broadcasts. This is like a dream. I mean, if you would literally ask me what my dream job is, it would be to be a play-by-play commentator for, a Major League Baseball team. While that might not necessarily be in my future, the fact that I get to be the voice of Central Penn Knights baseball and basketball, it really is important to me, and it's something that I look back on in pride, and I can look back at those games, and it's just something that I'll never forget. It's something that every single year I look forward to. So I just want you to know how much it means to me and how I'm going to be ready to go every single time. Hopefully that we get some nice weather, but even if not, I'll sit in there with gloves and hand warmers on if I need to. So I just want you to know how much this means to me.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd be remiss. We can't end the show until we talk about some of these fundraisers that you've been doing this year. So your most successful fundraisers were pulled pork, and I gotta say, if you haven't gotten any, you're really missing out. Tell us about you being a chef. I mean, this is something all these years I've known you. I knew you could cook, but I didn't know to what level until these fundraisers started happening. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Basically, I just cook as a hobby because I like people to taste my food. So I'm a sharing person when it comes to food. And some people say I should own a catering business. You know what I mean? A smoking catering business, which that's all well and good, but it's a hobby for me. It's not like going out there. I don't want it to be an everyday job. So if I can share my food and make the team some money by doing that, I have no problem doing that at all. And, I do make the best pulled pork this side of the Mississippi River.
It's amazing. Now, gentlemen, I know that you got to be a part of these fundraisers and obviously you got to sample some of it. Did you know that Coach Stern could cook like this, could barbecue?
I had heard from some of the returning players that he can cook and he has made a lot of food, but I didn't know it until I had it. I tried it firsthand. I tried his pulled pork, and it's easily the best pulled pork I've ever had in my entire life. And I have an uncle who he took his pulled pork to like a competition in Philly, and he got like 3rd out of 25 meals. So to have that, and it was just a completely different experience. I'm like, wow,
that's saying something there. Yeah. Kevon, what were your thoughts about it?
It was really impressive. I never heard of fried corn, and I thought I would hate it. It looked disgusting, but I tried it, and that was like one of the best things I've ever tasted. I don't even want to eat regular corn now. I just always ask for fried corn.
Oh, yeah. Once in a while, because these guys, a lot of guys are from far away, so they don't get a home-cooked meal like they're used to. So, like the last, 3 Sundays, I brung over, Sunday meals for the crew. I cook for my team, so I want my team to be happy while they're here. So we're a family.
That's so cool. Well, Coach, I want to just recap. Please tune in on Wednesday, February 23rd from 2 to 3 for a huge announcement about upcoming season of Knights baseball. And as always, you can go to centralpennknights.com for all of the information, statistics, rosters, schedules. And I want everyone out there listening to promise me, virtually, of course, that you're going to come out to some of these games this year, because my goal is to get as many people out to these games as possible and root on our Knights this year. Well, Coach Stern, thank you so much for your time. Of course, I'm going to be bothering you for some more pulled pork soon, but I just appreciate your time and your commitment to the Knights.
Hey, no problem. We're going to win the first ever Eastern State Athletic Conference title this year also.
Bold statement.
Bold.
Dalton, thank you for spending time here and sharing a little bit with us about your journey in baseball.
Yes, sir. Honored to be here.
And Kevon, same as well, and certainly hope that we get MLB back before, so they'll get ready for their regular season as well.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Of course. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. For head baseball coach here at Central Penn, Robert Stern, and Nightly News reporters and Central Penn Knights baseball players Kevon Davis and Dalton Kohler, we'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.